Hi guys, welcome back to another Form Check Friday video. In today's video I'm going to be exploring the lateral lunge or the side lunge. Again, this is a movement that shows up very regularly within the Bodyweight 365 program, and we want to make sure that your technique is as good as possible to make sure that you get the most benefit when you are doing lateral lunges. Now, a lateral lunge in real time looks something like this. So it's a big stride out to the side, transferring the weight over, sitting down into the movement, and then being able to push off the floor and bring the feet together at the top. Now, there are a couple of things that we really want to focus on when we do this movement. First of all, to make sure that we get the most benefit from it, but also to make sure that we reduce your risk of injury, because again, with all lunges, there is a movement through the knee and a movement through the hip, and we do have to have that little bit of cautious control over how we actually execute the movements. So the key things that I want you to think about on lateral lunges are, first of all, the width of your stride, okay? If you take a short stride, it's very hard to create that range of movement through the hips in order to get into that lateral lunge position and really sort of load through that hip and that glute in order to drive back up to the top. Chances are, again, if you're not taking a big stride, if you're too short on the stride, you're going to put a lot more force through the knee and it's going to be slightly uncomfortable. So the first coaching point is to make sure that you take a really big stride out to the side. And if you were just practicing this before you go through the movement, I would focus on phase number one being the stride width, okay? Making sure that you can actually feel a little bit of stretch into your adductors on the inner thigh before you go into the movement. The second part of the movement is when you've taken that big stride, we want to focus on how we transfer the weight over to one side, okay? So my left leg is going to stay straight, and I'm going to slowly transfer my weight over to the right hand side by bending that right knee and trying to sit back into the movement. Now you'll notice that I'm using my arms in front as a little bit of a counterbalance before I drive back up to the top. So that's another thing that you can include. You can include that arm reach just to create a bit of a counterbalance, because this allows you on that lateral lunge to be able to sit back into the movement. Instead of letting the body come forwards and collapsing, you can stay taller and you can really load that glute before you drive back up to the top. So they're the first couple of points. It's the length or the width of the stride, and then also getting that transfer of weight over to the outside. The next thing to focus on is how you generate force off the floor to get back up to the top, okay? So let's go through those first couple of coaching points again. It's a big stride first of all. We're starting to transfer the weight over to the side, sitting down and back into the movement. And now what I'm thinking about is trying to generate the force driving off the floor, so really pushing the outside leg off the floor to get back up to the top. Now you're going to feel quite a lot in the tops of the thighs, in the quads, but also back into the glutes as well. If you're doing this movement right, you should feel very little stress on the knee, and we should feel quite a lot around the back of the hips and the buttocks. So they're the three key coaching points for this specific movement, which is the lateral lunge. It's the length of the stride, first of all, really open up the hips. It's the transfer of weight across, keeping that leg straight, sitting down and back, using those arms as a counterbalance, and then finally trying to really drive away from the floor to get back up to the top of the movement.